Friendslop. How does that word make you feel? Does it elicit a chuckle? Maybe it makes your blood boil. Or maybe you've heard it here and there, but you have no idea what it means. No matter how you feel about it, Friendslop is here to stay. The newest trend in the indie gaming space is picking up steam and bulldozing some of AAA gaming's biggest investments. In an era of mass layoffs at the most successful conglomerates in video games, the success of lean, focused titles that center around fun, first and foremost, feels like a form of poetic irony. The Blizzards and Xboxes of the world are still chasing the trends from like 7 years ago. Battle Pass models, live service market fronts, gacha gambling, and they're only now seeing the potential of roguelike randomness. But even half a decade from now, if Sony wanted a slice of the Friendslop pie, it wouldn't work. It couldn't work. These games exude something that can't be mass-produced. They're buggy. They're cheap. They're anti-polish. They're sorta punk rock. This is the Friendslop epidemic. Or just shut the f up and have fun. We're gonna get into more of the video essay in just a second, but if you do end up enjoying what you see, consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps out small creators like me to be seen by more people. And if you want to support financially, I have a Ko-fi page, but more about that at the end of the video. Take it away, past me. So what actually is Friendslop? And why the weirdly derogatory name for this genre of indie games? Well, if you've spent any amount of time on the internet, you might have noticed gamers aren't exactly the most chill subset of people when it comes to new things. A new take about their favorite infallible game? Not on their watch. A new group of similar games with familiar influences? Definitely rip-offs. I mean, remember the 90s when every first-person shooter was a Doom clone? Sarcasm aside though, Friendslop seems to originate from this post, describing Lethal Company, R.E.P.O, and content warning as Friendslop. Its sole purpose of existence is friend farming? Lovely. But before we continue, I'd like to point out that this user later said they meant this post to be humorous, lighthearted, and I don't want to see any of y'all sending this person any negativity. I just bring it up for context. The world is already negative enough as it is. Keep that to yourself. The phrase caught on though, especially with those gamers who feed off of pessimism. That type of gamer who finds happiness in hating what's popular. You know the type. The ones that you can find in some of my comment sections. Friendslop. They're those games that require a group of friends to play. No matchmaking with random players or leaderboards here. They require cooperation to complete a shared task, gather the most loot, capture footage of monsters to post to SpookTube, and most have integrated easy-to-use voice chat with proximity features baked in. Everything a group of friends needs to start off their chaotic mission is right there. A few clicks, and you're off. No friction between you and a good time with 3 of your least serious friends. Persistent leveling or any form of meaningful progression aren't a thing here either. Everyone is equally clueless, and the only real strategy you can rely on is good communication. That lends to the overall feeling that folks can kind of drop in and out whenever they please. Since there's no real skill required and the main draw is the silly shenanigans with your buds, convincing someone to hop on the latest Friendslop trend with you is pretty painless. The game rounds are short, and the price of entry is usually in the single digits, even before an inevitable Steam sale. And most important of all, these games let you do a silly little dance while you wait for your friends to fix their mic settings. No wonder we're seeing these astronomical sales in the Friendslop genre.
It has sold over 10 million copies to date. Congratulations to the team.
Not because of the silly dances, well, maybe a little, but that low price. It's much less of an ask to get a friend to download the latest trending game on Steam with you when it's less expensive than a cup of coffee from your least favorite Union Buster. And because of its signature cooperative first design, that ease of entry is crucial to a Friendslop title's success. The easier it is to convince people to buy it, the easier it is to sell millions of copies. Kinda genius. This new genre of hyper-specific co-op game is the ultimate poster child for how word-of-mouth marketing is all it takes to launch something into the stratosphere. In an age where games could be shaping up to cost $80 a pop, single-digit prices are more attractive than ever. And from a studio's perspective, I'd imagine sales that high could be pretty game-changing, opening them up to take bigger risks on their future projects, especially when considering the minimal resources, manpower, and effort it must take to make an entry into the growing Friendslop catalog versus, say, a genre-defying Souls-like. I should say, presumably low effort though. Even though these games are known for their rough-around-the-edges approach, no playable video game is truly low effort by any reasonable measure. I mean, the closest I've ever come to creating a video game was making a ROM hack of Pokemon Emerald so that I could stream a playthrough using only Miltank. And that genuinely was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I wish I was kidding. But even better still, a loyal player base is doing the job of a costly marketing firm. Hey, play this game with me. It's like $7 and it's super simple to pick up and play. Plus, you can do a little dance, and so on and so on. The more players have a good time with the newest Friendslop, the more of their friends they recruit to buy it. It's like an MLM pyramid scheme, but less icky and with more honking. And that exact pitch is how I found my way into my first ever Friendslop waiting room. And mind you, I'm not really a multiplayer kinda guy. I've mentioned this in a previous video essay, but growing up, I only really played single-player video games. While I had a handful of close friends, none of them were really gamers beyond the occasional Sims bender. Friend and gaming weren't usually in the same sentence. And even though I was in high school during the heyday of Xbox Live, playing games with strangers online never felt very fun. I would just get called a slur or hear someone promise to show my mother a good time. How much do you want to bet that some of those people were named Jeremy? So needless to say, I didn't find much enjoyment in online lobbies, waiting for strangers to make a hyper-masculine display of pounding their chest, while I was trying to learn the controls of a new game. My other option would have been an MMO. But even beyond the fact that I grew up with the most helicopter-y of parents who were convinced any stranger on the internet would kidnap me, the chore-filled monotony of an MMO didn't really appeal to me anyway. I was more than content to dive into some solo video game worlds. A sprawling JRPG or bombastic action set piece was more my speed. But all of that changed during a year where nothing weird or crazy happened. Nothing at all, right? As I so often end up saying in these video essays, 2020 changed everything. I mean, the economy is still trying to recover from what happened 5 years ago now. It was a year of loss and masks and creepy bunny mascots ruining Animal Crossing. A year of unprecedented need for fun and escapism and Zoom calls and a little game called Among Us. A game of social deduction and deception that just happened to explode in popularity as we were all stuck inside. It was a perfect storm. Every friend group played it, and many streamed it on Twitch, which is where I first discovered it. Live streaming was never really on my radar until 2020 when I got hooked by watching the biggest creators on the platform play Among Us. The banter, the space to entertain, and the camaraderie around this simple gameplay loop, it was kind of addicting. After trying my hand at streaming myself, wanting a similar experience, I realized how much I'd been missing that connection to other people who shared a love for my hobby. So after months and months and months of not being able to see any of my friends or loved ones, it was exhilarating to rapidly meet so many people from so many corners of the world. Finally, I felt like I found somewhere I fit in. Finally, I made some friends who loved video games just as much as I did. Finally, I met all of you, and I don't have to sit alone in front of these pixels anymore. But even still, playing multiplayer games after years of avoiding them isn't the easiest. They require skill, or they're competitive, or they're a commitment, financially or in terms of a schedule. Or worst of all, they require social skills. That is until Friendslop. Yeah, believe it or not, these games were my first real entry point into enthusiastically playing games with the friends I'd made through streaming and making these video essays. It scratched that same itch as watching those Among Us streams from years back, but without being forced to accuse my friends of venting. I'm not like good at video games, in case that's news to anyone on this channel, but a genre of low-stakes games where it's almost more fun if you're bad at them, I'm in. Plus, as a streamer, Friendslop games are like content gold mines and clip farming machines. Whether it's a goofy moment or one of the countless bugs that pop up during a session, Friendslop is a pretty entertaining way to break out from my single-player comfort zone. That preference for solo, story-driven experiences remains though, especially because I'm shy in a larger group, and since I stream a lot of the games that I play, it's certainly easier to keep up with chat and constant technical issues when it's just me and some mindless goons. But nothing beats those moments, as a player or as a streamer, of jank during a dive gone wrong, or the chaotic fallout that happens after someone puts on that undeniably suspicious mask. They're simple games, even shoddily put together sometimes, but they're endlessly replayable. Different configurations of friends completely change the game's flavor, and because of that willful simplicity, modding communities can help elongate a Friendslop's shelf life. Not to mention games like Peak geniusly reconfiguring their layout once a day. It's the cheeky simplicity of these games where the slop half of the genre name comes into play. But labeling something like Peak as Friendslop, whether as a joke or a way to minimize its success, is to center its stripped back design rather than all the other gameplay pillars of the burgeoning genre it's a part of. Whether we like it or not, the name of a genre sets certain expectations for a game before even starting it up. In a horror game, you would reasonably expect to feel on edge. Limbo-like, as reductive as that genre name is, tells you what sort of gameplay to expect, and maybe even the art style, tone, and type of story. A lot of people might avoid a Souls-like like The Plague because of what they think that label means. And yet, those same people might love a game like Expedition 33, even though, for all intents and purposes, it shares more DNA with a Souls-like than it does a JRPG. So even a fusion of genres like this gets sold with the more palatable label front and center. So Friendslop, it might not be the most polished or glitzy genre, but I'd argue we could find a better label for this group of games defined by their homegrown nature and Zoom meeting roots. Simplicity or low-budget production doesn't always denote slop, Jeremy. I mean, if anything, I'd argue the real slop are the studio-shuttering failures prescribed to us by executives who've never picked up a controller in their lives. The games forced onto the market by publishers before they're finished. The games that end up just okay while still losing hundreds, if not thousands of people their jobs and livelihoods. Instead of Friendslop, what if we try something more evocative of what makes these games feel so similar? This distant cousin of the party game needs a facelift. What about comms co-op? Since the cooperative nature of these games requires their built-in proximity voice chats. And let me tell you, trying to play Peak while someone's mic is broken is a little rough. Or, ooh, Extraction party game? Lethal Company likes have a very similar cadence to an extraction shooter, right? Get in, complete your objective, in this case, gather as much loot as you can, and get out. But of course, with more shenanigans and less pew-pew. If you wanted to be even more cynical, you could go with something like clip farming co-op. These games are perfect backdrops for friends with high charisma stats to get together and make some golden moments for the social platform of their choice. Content warning makes it incredibly easy by letting you directly export the clips you filmed during your mission to share online. And if, like me, you stream on Twitch, those clips just come flying in. They're casual affairs with loose enough frameworks to leave room for some fun bits. Oh, gather core, because you gather with your friends to gather things on your missions sometimes? No. What do y'all think would be a better name for this emerging genre? Regardless of what we end up calling it, this wave of successful Friendslop does illuminate something pretty interesting, because I'm willing to bet this isn't a passing trend. No matter how many of these games drop off and lose their luster after a few months, their low price points and easy to pick up nature ensure that the next title to come along will almost be guaranteed to hit. The market is there, and it remains there. In fact, the more varieties of this playstyle that are on the market, the more this critical mass of player interest grows. But why? What makes this specific type of game so appealing right now? Beyond the obvious, they're fun. If it was just down to the fun of the gameplay, the proto-Friendslop titan that is Among Us would have popped off when it released in 2018. Timing is key here. The Friendslop explosion is making millions upon millions in sales because of its very specific timing. Trends in culture usually reflect the needs of that culture. Although, don't ask me what the overnight takeover of Labubu means. I'm apparently too boomer to understand that trend, but the popularity of Friendslop, on the other hand, makes entirely too much sense when you consider the year that we live in right now. Is it a 2025 recession indicator? Maybe. But on an even deeper level, Friendslop shows us what we're missing in a post-2020 landscape. I think pointing out how lonely that year was for most of us goes without saying by now, but we found our spaces amidst that chaos. Forums, online communities, we moved to digital town squares, and even most of our jobs took on electronic form. No longer were we all bound by geography, so people moved, left cities for cheaper rent or better weather. Metropolises became suggestions rather than a requirement for a lot of industries. And as much as I love my space, humans are social creatures. Texting and DMs can only replace real-time human connections for so long. Humanity is that pause between thoughts. It's that silence while sitting and watching clouds together. And in a year like 2025, it's easier than ever to lose that connection to our humanity, to wake up and grasp for the tethers of community, but be left with anxiety, fear, uncertainty. The doom scroll looms heavier than ever before. And with everything going on around us every day, it's easy to just disconnect. I mean, it's impossible to describe everything that's going on in this video essay script because by the time I upload it, there'll be another crisis or 7 to report on. How does Hassan Piker do it? The cycle of disaster after disaster makes the idea of insulating yourself from all of these updates feel so alluring. Unplugging, turning off your phone to stop yourself from losing your grip, becoming an island, cut off, alone, unreachable. In a world of AI grifts and the looming threat of society's collapse, we need to rekindle our sense of humanity, the spark that makes life worth it. In a cynical world, we all want and we absolutely need connection. To survive, we need whimsy. We need humor. We need a reason to laugh with our friends. We need Friendslop. It's a genre in direct opposition to that doom scrolling and the profit-first fun sucks of the world. The barrier to entry is basically non-existent, and most importantly, it's truly cooperative. No scoring or progression to make Jeremy feel the need to get sweaty. It's impossible to be a tryhard when the only goal is to work together and have a good time. Nothing strengthens your bond with someone quite like climbing a mountain together, braving snowstorms, sweltering lava fields, and the intrusive thought of pushing your bestie off a cliff. It's games like this that have been connecting us all over the past year or so, while the world around us goes to shit. In what feels like the darkest timeline, we're still able to find that human connection in an easy-to-access digital space, and fight that urge to dissociate entirely from the world around us. They let us help one another climb out of some really dark spots. And I'm not sure a first-person shooter has ever been able to say the same. Friendslop, extraction party game, comms co-op, peak-like, clip farming, whatever name you end up calling this genre, I'm glad it's been growing in popularity lately. In a world where whimsy is harder to come by than ever, these scrappy little distractions are getting people together. They're unserious. And while video games are becoming more and more of a corporate monolith, it's great to see people rallying behind titles that are anything but polished. But if your first reaction to seeing a group of friends goofing around and having a good time is to scoff and roll your eyes, maybe consider that we live in a world where joy and laughter are at a premium. We're all just out here trying to find connection amidst AI rotting away our culture and fires burning down entire nations. Or, more to the point, shut the f*** up and have some fun. So, what would you call this genre of Friendslop? I don't really have a good name for it, so let me know down in the comments. But I hope you enjoyed this video essay because I had a lot of fun making it. I mean, I got to play a bunch of silly games with my friends down in the content mines while I was at work. So I do have to say thank you to all of those friends who helped me make this video possible. Please go check them out on their Twitch streams or YouTube channels. I will link them below in the description. So thank you so much to Jinzy, Robo Dessert, Noobalot, Puzzled Monkey Tree, Faux Retro, Kyle of Couchbugs, and Hekvetica. Thanks, y'all. You are some of the sloppiest friends I could ask for. And speaking of, we have another round of thank yous for Voximandius, Beanfiello, Veltwalker, Cap Danvers, Max Wattage, Robertson, Comrade Quest, Lionbite, Sarah, John Lax, Nightmare God, Crazy Tyndall, Kyle and Rain of Couchbugs, Diva Grind, Why Not Omelet 69, One's the Loneliest, Suspicious Fish, Fan, and Faux Retro. Those are my monthly supporters over on my Ko-fi page, and if you're unfamiliar, that's basically like Patreon, but it's a whole lot cooler. So if you also want to help support this content financially, you can also become a monthly supporter over there for as little as $4 a month, and you'll get behind the scenes content of these video essays as well as uncensored versions of these video essays now, shoutouts at the end here, and input on the type of content that I make in the future. And if you really want to, you can also do a one-time donation of any amount if that's more your speed. Oh, and I kind of forget to mention this at the end of these videos, but you can also find me streaming basically every day of the week over on my Twitch at twitch.tv/Filmotter too. Anyway, something that I do actually say at the end of all of these videos because it is super important and helps me a lot as a small creator, please, please, please share the video. Thanks.